hear it in a whole new way.
Sounds great.
Stripped-down performances from groundbreaking musicians and emerging artists, plus the stories behind the songs. This is Sirius XMU Sessions.
Hey, welcome to Sirius XMU Sessions with me, Jenny Eliscu, and Bright Eyes. Hi, guys.
Hey, Jenny.
Hey, Jenny.
We're doing this remotely on a Zoom, and I have to say, it's so wonderful. As much as it's weird to be doing this way, it's so wonderful to see you guys, like, actually see your faces in my little recording booth here in Brooklyn.
Aw.
How's everybody
Great
feeling?
to see you too.
Yeah, I miss you, Jenny. It's been a minute.
Yeah, how are you guys feeling? I mean, at this point that we're connecting to record this, the album's now been announced, and by the time this airs, it'll be truly like right about to come out. But yeah, how's it feeling knowing kind of that it's in the world, this album's coming?
I'm happy that it's going to finally come out because it seems like it's been forever. You know, it took us 2 years to make the record, and then, you know, we've been talking about it for 6 months, so it'll just feel good to have it finally, you know, we can move on with our lives after this. It'd be great.
When were the earliest seeds of this group of songs planted, and the idea that after a while, almost a decade, that you guys would get together and make another Bright Eyes album?
I think we started talking about it towards the end of 2017, and then we kind of got into it around, I don't know, in the spring of 2018. And then, you know, we kind of spent that year writing together and kind of putting the songs together. And then 2019 was spent kind of, you know, actually recording and the record and doing all that stuff.
I mean, was there ever... Obviously, it's not like Bright Eyes ever broke up, and you know, the interval between albums, plenty of bands have taken longer between LPs than that. But did it seem like when the idea came up, like, wait a minute, are we going to really do this? Was there any sense of, like, what does it mean to make a Bright Eyes album, or did you need to linger on that a while?
I mean, I think we were all, like, pretty much right away excited about the idea, right?
Yeah, I was.
I think Conor's the one that brought it up.
Yeah, I don't think it took us, you know, I think the initial seed was like spontaneous. But you know, we circled back around and talked about it again, and once we realized we were all serious, then yeah, we did. I think it's fair to say we thought about, you know, what it means to make a Bright Eyes record after so long, and you know, we wanted it to be, you know, simultaneously, you know, fit into our catalog and sit alongside our other records, but also, you know, not be a time machine, you know, like kind of have it reflect where we are all at in our lives, you know, in 19, 18, 20, when we were making it. So yeah, it was a bit of a balancing act to kind of have it, you know, we thought about a lot of our older records and tried to find little touchstones, whether sonically or instrumentation wise, that you know, made it feel like a Bright Eyes record. So hopefully that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, obviously all three of you have done a lot of different music, you know, non-Bright Eyes music in the past several years, and undoubtedly learned new skills, you know, that are in your arsenal or whatever. What are some of the things that, when you really got about the business of working on these songs, were the specific things that you wanted to highlight or amplify or, yeah?
Well, I think that, you know, we all were sort of growing in our respective zones in different ways, as far as, you know, things we focus on separately. But yeah, I think one of those things was, you know, we were all in a better position to kind of work collaboratively. You know, one idea was to kind of, you know, while sort of, you know, using a lot of elements from past Bright Eyes records to create this sound of familiarity. One of the ideas was to kind of go about it in a slightly different way, a little more collaboration as far as the writing was concerned, as far as like bringing in our own ideas. So for me, one aspect of that was like, I don't know, I'd been busy in the previous several years working on some music for films and kind of taking that mindset and approach to like composing and writing, I don't know, it felt like a really sort of natural, easier thing to do as far as like coming up with ideas and like presenting them and writing songs.
Yeah, and the idea that there would at some point be an orchestra at your command ready to do what you were saying, you know, as there was for this album, would have been less of a like, it's like, yeah, well, you've done that, you can do that. But tell me a little bit, yeah, about some of that, about how all of that, the orchestral portions were recorded, because there's a lot of that. We won't hear that in this session, but there's a lot of that on the album, and it's gorgeous.
Well, that was Nate there, yeah.
Well, that approach was the one thing. I mean, that's kind of a little bit more similar to how we've always, or at least did it to Casadega, as far as like
the orchestral stuff. Yeah, it was kind of a touchstone to Casadega. I think in the writing of it, we talked about it as a group, and Nate, you know, I don't know who brought it up first because it's so long ago, but like kind of condensing the orchestra to be a little bit more focused in a melodic sense, like we did on Lifted. We did it out of limitations on Lifted because we just had our friends that kind of could play orchestral instruments. So therefore, like, the melodies were a little bit more straightforward. There wasn't really much harmony because just getting them in tune was
hard enough.
So we left it at that. We had, you know, bassoons and what, you know, like all kinds of weirder instruments that people played in high school but hadn't picked up in like 8 years, and we put them on our album. So we kind of went back to that method of writing, just in a more like streamlined melodic sense for the orchestra, and but also having that big sound that we kind of like just collectively as a band, you know.
Yeah, with some, for sure, with some songs like I don't know, Dance and Sing, I want to say, is one example. There was definitely slightly more of a focus on the clarity of melody in some ways, but to balance it out, there were also songs like One and Done, which was definitely kind of focused on sort of kind of more of a Scott Walker psychedelic, big sort of complex approach. But yeah, like I guess I will say that with Casadega, it was a tendency towards like as many counter melodies as possible, a lot of supporting textures as far as the orchestra is concerned. On this record, there was a deliberate focus a little bit here and there on some songs towards just clarity of melody.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how, like, it's kind of, it makes sense that you, as you get more expertise, there's the period of expanding and trying more stuff at the same time, and then there's the period of, like, applying restraint or something like that, where it's just like, oh, just because we know how to do the bigger version or something, like, doesn't mean we always want to do that.
Totally.
Restraint's a good word.
Like what fits the song the best is kind of what you're shooting for.
I mean, I know, Connor, you and I have talked about this in the past, you know, about the struggle to figure out when to stop cooking it, or like not to like let things get overcooked. And yeah, I mean, and I also just wonder generally from your perspective, like in this group of songs, when did it start to feel like to you like, oh, this is coming together. This is an album coming together?
I mean, honestly, probably not until we got in the actual studio. So like Nate was saying, so 2018, we mostly were here in Omaha, just demoing and writing the songs. A lot of the songs in the past, I would usually come with finished songs, but a lot of these songs started with some of Mike and Nate's musical ideas, and then I would add the vocal melodies and the lyrics. And then summer of 2019, we started recording in LA, and that's when we brought in like John Theodore and Flea, and we started tracking the songs for real. But up until that point, we really didn't want to get attached to the demos, so we didn't even send it to those guys. We just showed up at the studio. I think we played the demo for them like 5 minutes before we went in and started playing, and really wanted to see like where they would take it as a rhythm section and sort of follow from there. So once we were in there and doing the basic tracking, the songs started to really take shape. And I think, I don't know at what point I knew it was going to be cool, because at first it was, it was just like let's just like let this happen and see where it takes us. But
I was a little nervous.
Yeah, I was nervous
but
too.
Then after the first day, I felt like, oh yeah, we're making a record. All the kind of weird kind of feelings kind of went away because, we always make records with different people every time, but this was a little more.
Well, it'd been a long time too.
Well, it had been a long time, but these were people that we didn't, like you and I, Conor, well, obviously Nate knows Flea from playing in the Chili Peppers, but we rarely make Bright Eyes records with people that aren't our friends, or like we don't intimately know, we rarely do that. So this was one where it's like kind of felt a little different at first. And then, I mean, those guys are so good and they're so pro. And like, I mean, playing on a Bright Eyes record must have been slightly out of their normal, I don't know.
I can imagine at first it seems like, how's this going to work? If these guys, Flea especially, have a distinctive sound and we have a distinctive sound, like what is that going to be like? But then I'm imagining you get in there and it sounds good, and it sounds like good Bright Eyes songs, not like something with Flea on it, like right, like in your face. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, this is that, wow, we get to have the energy of this brilliant rhythm section and it just sounds like good Bright Eyes music. Well, obviously the versions of the songs on the album are the ones that include Flea and John Theodore, but the versions that we're listening to in Sirius XMU sessions this week are considerably stripped back from that. And after we get into some of the music, we'll talk a bit about how these recordings were rendered. But let's play for the people Persona Non Grata on Sirius XMU sessions.
Getting dressed for a date, put on blue aftershave, wore a kilt like a Celt, hid the way that I felt, combat boots, fallen leaves, West Village, Halloween, to a Bollywood song, taking shots till we're gone, unwelcome in the autumn, persona non grata, I'm the last of the best. I'm your thoughts in the swamp. There's a playground of children neath the shadows of buildings. There's a lawn out the church where your homelessness works, where the stained glass of crimson meets Ezekiel's visions. Saw a valley of bones where no man shall be saved. And now you come to me asking that. Now you come to me and you're asking that. Oh, how can we reconcile? Left your innocence there in Tiananmen Square. You were filled with despair, underfed and depressed. Vacant lot where a prison stood. God knows you never would lie to yourself, but you do every time. Made a life of deception and passive aggression. I'm gonna scream when I sing, I'm gonna die in the ring. Turn me on, you're a knockout. Climb up onto my cloud. Do your worst to me now before I change my mind. Now you wanna be true to me once again. And yeah, you want me to be true to you once again. And yeah, you wanna be true to me once again. And you want me to be true to you once again.
We're talking about the new Bright Eyes album. It's just a sentence I love to say. In a trash fire of a year, there's a new Bright Eyes album. It's called Down in the Weeds Where the World Once Was, and Bright Eyes are playing us some songs from it this week on Sessions. And this is a stripped-down renditions of a couple of the songs. Tell me a little bit about, where was this stuff recorded?
So at the time, Nate and I were in Los Angeles, and we had both been quarantined for a long time. And so I went over to his house, and he had some drum machines, and we made a recording with, his drum machines and his keyboards, and I sang, and then we sent that over to Michael there, and he added his magic, and then mixed it all together, next thing you know, we sent it to you.
We're a live band again.
Yeah.
That was the first time you went into a person's house.
That was the first, after like months, that was the first place. Like we had hung out in the backyard, but yeah, that was the first actual structure I entered in a long time.
You were the first person that we had in the house.
How'd that feel for you guys?
It was weird. But we ordered some pizza. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's like old times. Yeah. But we were don't worry. We were safe, responsible. We didn't make out.
No.
We didn't do anything weird.
No.
Didn't lick each other's pizza. Nothing like that.
No.
Nope.
But you recorded these sweet, sweet songs, and we appreciate it. We just heard Persona Non Grata, and we're going to listen to this exclusive version of Mariana Trench in just a sec. Tell me about, Mariana Trench is the first official single that came out with the announcement of the album. Tell me a little bit about the origins of that tune.
Well, that was one of the earlier songs that I wrote. I think it was maybe the second or third song, and I don't know, as to what it's about, it's always hard for me to describe or encapsulate. I feel like it's always the best in the eye of the beholder, what you hear in it, but I don't know. What do you think it's about, Jenny?
Well, I mean, I think it's about justifiable paranoia.
I like that. Yeah.
It works.
I mean, I guess, it's not, and that's not even what I'm asking is what it's about. But I suppose I am curious if once the album was finished, if you sort of noticed that there are certain themes that you were interested in, that you explored, throughout the course of the album. But also, just I'm just sort of intrigued about how that song, how it came together, layer by layer, because obviously there were a lot of different sessions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely took a new shape once we went into the real studio and, started playing with John and Flea. I think we wanted it to, my original demo for it was, just piano and voice, and it was I think it was a lot slower, and it was pretty wide open, how it would come together. But I think their rhythm parts really, it gives it that, more propulsive kind of excitement to it. And then Nate wrote the really amazing horn break section in the middle, which I love. And then we got Jessica Hoop, who's a really great singer-songwriter, and I love her voice. So we asked her to sing the harmony. And I think it came together, and it's probably maybe the most overtly kind of poppy song on the record, maybe. I don't know.
I always wonder with things the interlude where you're just making some noise with your voice and it's not really words or anything like that, which must feel pretty satisfying to do. But was there ever any point where you were going to try and turn that into words? Or how do you know when you've gotten that take right? I'm always just...
there's a lot of woos, and
I feel like we obsessed on this record over the woos and the hey, more than any record. It feels like every song you just started freestyling.
Well, the thing is that a lot of that stuff, because our band is we are a band, but we're more so like a studio project. It's not like we get in a room and jam in the garage or anything like that. So it's more like building blocks. We put it together slowly and it's manicured. But then later on, we'll go on tour with an actual band and we'll start playing these songs for months. And then things like that start to happen naturally in a live show because it's loud and, you know, I get excited and I want to make weird animal sounds. But I was like trying to like reverse engineer a little bit. It's like, let's get some of that now.
You're bringing the live show to the recording.
I mean, yeah, like this, because it's going to end up there at some point.
That's because you're a professional, you know?
Yeah. It's like
like we would make actually. I mean, you would set aside time, like you know, studio time to come in and do ad libs. It was like
woo practice.
Yeah, it was like, you know,
no,
yeah,
actually like union sessions.
I have a woo coach.
There's like several songs that when mixing, like out of the 1,000 elements that are happening, like your only notes were about those things. Like, can we find a different whoop? Like, really? That's your.
It's important.
A lot of mix moves based around the ad libs, like, which is cool.
Yeah.
We're going to listen to some more music, including not just Mariana Trench, but also a new version of an older Bright Eyes tune, Light Pollution. So enjoy that up next on Sirius XMU Sessions.
Better save some space for me in that growing cottage industry where selfishness is currency. People spend more than they make. I wrap my hair in bandages from a string of happy accidents. Guess maybe I asked for it, but who am I to say? The closing bell, death tolls, hear the market crash. Crying traders swear to get out of the game. The cowboy drinks himself to death fresh out of rehab, while they're loading all the rifles on the range. Look up at the Everest, look down in that Mariana Trench. Look now as the crumbling 405 falls down, oh, when the big one hits. Look out for the plain clothes. Look out for the wide top nose. Look out on the ever widening money trail and where it goes. It takes a lot of gall to try to please these dehumanizing entities. I befriended all my enemies. They had my back against the wall. What a coward is, what a coward does. I suppose maybe I always was, but I'm sick of it. I've had enough, and now I'm ready for the war. The lion bows his head down to the ringmaster, with the tightrope stretched so high above the crowd. All their faces are contortionists, it must have hurt, 'cause they all looked as unhappy as a clown. Look long at that Stonehenge, look quick, is there something you missed? Look into the smoldering buildings, bombed out fog until it finally lifts. Look up at that big wave, look down at your other brother's grave. Look hard for a heart or something to sacrifice. That's what it takes, that's what it takes. Ah, that's what it takes. That's what it takes. Ah, that's what it takes. Look up at the Everest, look down in that Mariana Trench. Look now as the crumbling 405 falls down, oh, when the big one hits. Look out for the plain clothes, speaks soft but the white top knows. Look out on the ever widening money trail, and where it goes, where does it go? Johnny Hobson was a good man. He used to loan me books and mic stands. He He even got me a subscription to the Socialist Review. Listening to records in his basement, old folk songs about the government. It's love of money, not the market. He said these fuckers push on you, and freedom yells, it don't cry. Whatever sells will decide, but there's no hell when you die, so don't look so worried. He got a nightlife, lost his day job, pushing paper, swinging pendulums. Anything to serve a function or to occupy some time. You gotta earn this living somehow. You're good as dead without a bank account. It's funny how alive he felt down in that unemployment line, with all that trash at his feet, the pools of piss in the street, all of that filthy empathy for the way we're feeling. It's the way we're feeling. It's the way we're feeling. The billboards shade, the flags they wave, the anthems playing loud. The baseball game was letting out, and all at once you saw the dust and heard every tiny sound. Got in his truck and turned around, drove out through the crowd and the cops, drove out past that center mall, drove out past that sickening sprawl, out past that fenced-in cold, and maybe he lost control, fucking with the radio. But I bet the stars seem so close at the end, at the end, at the end, at the end, at the end.
I fucking love it. You're listening to Sirius XMU Sessions, and a thing I fucking love is happening. Bright Eyes are here, and they've played us some songs from their new album. As you just heard, an older one, Light Pollution, new 2020 verge. And we're going to close the session with something I really fucking love, which is a cover of Thin Lizzy. And tell me a little bit about your relationship with Thin Lizzy's music, my dude.
Well, I was late to the party. I mean, obviously, I've heard of them my whole life. I used to have our old tour manager used to play them all the time on the bus, and he told me that they were Paul Westerberg's favorite band, which made me like think I loved them. But then I only knew like the boys are back in town, and at the time I was like, okay, I guess the boys are back in town. That's fine. And then it took like 15 years later. I don't know. It wasn't, it was like maybe like a year ago or a year and a half ago. I like just randomly started listening to them again, and it finally all clicked. And then I got like obsessed, and like, read about, Phil Lynette, the singer, and like all the, all the stories and, the legends. And, it's just, they're just incredible. So it was fun. I think there's those there's those artists and bands out there that are waiting for you, that it's exciting when I always get jealous if like it's someone I've loved for a long time, and they'll be like, someone will be like, I just kind of figured out John Prine. And I'm like, oh, you're in for a treat, because there's like, now you have 15 albums to listen to. I mean, Thin Lizzy doesn't have that many, but like, it was exciting to have this band with, all these amazing songs that I got to discover late in life. And I love Boys Are Back in Town now too. So
Yeah, no, it's funny how Boys Are Back in Town, like, is, you know, you might dismiss it. There's something about it that if you're not from, like, that generation or something, you might just think it's, like, silly. There's something so perfectly silly about that song. But I feel like Thin Lizzy, like, yeah, if you love Thin Lizzy, there's something, that quality in every song. Like, even just the bounciness of, like, like, there's something silly about it, but it's so cool.
I agree.
Yep.
It's the guitar harmonies are like ever present.
Hey, we got a little inspiration from that on this version that you're going to play, and also on our album. Connor and I were going to do a guitar harmony tap guitar solo, which is a Bright Eyes first.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But yeah, there's also Phil has a solo record called Solo in Soho. They like recorded like towards the very end of his life, which is also really incredible. FYI.
Oh shit, I didn't know about that. I'm gonna have to find that.
Yeah. I mean, Thin Lizzy definitely was sort of, you know, provided the sonic backdrop for many a late night post-session hang while we were working on this album. So there you go.
And if it's not wooing, it's sha-la-la-la-la-ing, which I love to hear you do some of, Con. So as we close out this week's Sirius XMU session with Bright Eyes, we're going to listen to their awesome cover of Thin Lizzy's Running Back. And thanks so much, guys, for connecting to do this. I hope I get to see you IRL someday again soon.
I miss you, Jenny.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
Dudes, the album is so fucking good. As a perma stan, as the kids say, I could not think of a better addition to the Bright Eyes catalog and legacy. So thank you for making this year not completely terrible.
Aw, thank you.
Thanks.
Would you still leave me?
Sirius XMU Sessions. Stripped down performances and the stories behind the songs. New sessions premiere Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. And you can stream episodes on demand with your phone or at home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. Go to SiriusXM.com/listen at home to learn more.